Hello, Trekyardians. Welcome back for yet another guest announcement. As always, I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm always Commander Cockings, and today we have a really cool one because it's a behind the scenes guy, and I'm a behind the scenes sort of 3D chap, and this fun guy to have on the team.
Yeah, we'd like to introduce you to Rob Bonchoon, everybody, visual effects supervisor for Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek Enterprise, as well as one of the contributors to the new CG shots in the Eagle Moss model collection. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thanks a lot, guys. Good to be here.
So first of all, Rob, how did you get involved in Trek and begin your long career in visual effects?
I mean, I've always been a sci-fi fan and especially hardware and things like that. And I grew up in Montreal, and in Montreal in French, they would play like all the Jerry Anderson shows, Thunderbirds, UFO, Captain Scarlet. So, Space 1999, obviously Star Trek reruns from the States, and I'd watch all that, and I loved it. Anything with hardware. To me, that was all a hobby. I built model kits and all that, and that's what I like to do. There was no computers. There was no computer animation on the horizon at that point. I couldn't conceive of like moving to the United States or to another country. I was still going to college here, and I was doing a science degree, and I figured that's what I would do. I considered my hobby to be like that's a fantasy. Like that's a fantasy job for that 1,000% person that gets lucky to be at the right spot or whatever. And I just said, I'm going to take a chance, and and it wasn't Star Trek. I really admired James Cameron, especially after finding out he was Canadian. He had a similar degree that I did. There's a lot of similarities. I basically built an alien egg, and I sculpted a little face hugger with like wire and putty, and wiring for the hands and the tail, and the thing was attached to a spring inside, and if you pulled on a little lever on the side, it was like I cut the top in a four, so it would like pop open, and the thing would just like fly. It would push the doors open, it would fly out, and then just like glom onto the side. And I just shipped that off to Lightstorm Entertainment, because that's who Cameron was working under at that time. It was a production company. It was called Lightstorm Entertainment. It was right after Terminator 2. But I got a call, and they're like, well, if you're planning to come out here, when you come out here, give us a call, and we'll bring you in for at least a tour, and if not an interview, if there's something available. So all of a sudden, my motivations were like thrown into a tizzy, and I just went there for 2 months, and I did get an interview there, and I did get to see them and everything, and it was I was gonna be like a production assistant, and it was between me and this other guy. But that other guy had already worked there before, so I left, and I couldn't get in there, so what I started doing is just going door to door, looking up all the model shops, because that's what I could do at the time. There's no computer stuff. So I got to be friends with, I got to know some people at a model shop that I kept going back to, and finally they did hire me, and I started doing models for them.
I like it.
And as I was working for them, they actually got a contract to do the Kazon ships for the first episode of Voyager. They got the contract to do the miniatures. And because they knew I was a big Star Trek fan, the foreman of the shop said, you can take the models to Image G. When I went in there, Dan Curry happened to be there, and I'd never met Dan Curry before, but I knew who he was, from the books and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like, Dan, I didn't know, I was like, Dan Curry, okay, I kind of didn't know how to be with him, or like how to talk to him, but he looks at the models and he goes, we got to shoot these tonight, and there's no way the weathering on these things is anywhere near good enough. I mean, and then he looks at me and he goes, does Wonderworks, that was the name of the company I worked for, do they need you for the rest of the day? I didn't know quite what he was going with that at first. And I went, well, I don't know, I'd have to call. And he goes, because right now there's nobody else here that's around that can help me. And if we could each tackle a side of the ship and weather, like just, I weather one side, you weather the other side, we just make sure it matches and move down, we can get them done. We'll get them done in enough time. So that's what ended up happening. So I ended up spending like a whole afternoon talking with Dan Curry and getting to know him. And he showed me like, a lot of little modeling tricks. And what that did, though, was open up the contacts. In other words, because I spent the whole afternoon in Image G and I just didn't drop off 2 boxes and walk away, I couldn't call Dan up and go, do you want to go for lunch and just shoot the breeze or something, But from there, what happened is there was an opening. This is where I started to learn CG. I didn't want to move to CG. A friend of mine was working on Sequest, and they needed his boss left, and it was in the video playback department where you do the screen graphics, like when you look on a submarine, the sonar screens, any of the screens that you'd see on a military submarine. It was doing like those screens, and it basically taught me how to do the 2D. When Sequest got canceled, I spent the rest of the time learning the 3D, the Lightwave part. Since I didn't need it before, I spent the last 2 months that they were going to pay us to stay there to just, hit the ground running, and I built Battlestar Galactica Viper. I just built the Viper, and I put it in a scene with 2 others, and I made a flyby. After that, when I started looking for work, my reel was mostly screen displays, which were cool, and put to music, but the only CG stuff I had was the Battlestar Galactica. But it just happens that it got sent up to Foundation Imaging, which is Ron Thornton and Adam Leibowitz or Mojo, and a lot of people that are big Battlestar Galactica fans. And as soon as they saw that, they said, "Oh yeah, we should bring him in." It's like we should have a see, like how it would fit in.
Now, from our previous conversations, you have mentioned that much of the Voyager Enterprise special effects shots were not storyboarded, and so you got a chance to kind of create them with your team, meaning that you're responsible for the fun space battles and other cool angles that we all saw. Do you want to talk a little about being the cinematographer, as it were, for those shows?
A lot of people don't realize that, especially at the beginning of CG, when there were no pipelines or anything like that. I mean, just at that time, the technology just wasn't there for there to be the individualized pipelines that they have now. So each animator had to be a jack of all trades. You had to be able to, open up a blank screen, build the ship, texture it, light it, and now put it in your scene, animate it, add any effects that you need to add to it. I mean, it's all in camera. So you have to do everything. Motion, so you're a DP, you're the motion control guy, you're everything.
Yeah.
And what would happen is, saying that the team did, just to make sure everyone understands that, saying that like the CG team, let's say for one show, did all the animatics or whatever, that's not necessarily true. There's a supervisor from Paramount. Like, I worked with Mitch Susskind for most of my Star Trek career, which is like almost 12 years there. And he would come over. We would do the animatics together. So so he would know what he was about to get. We would do rough animatics. Then after that, I'd delegate out, different shots to different people, depending on their strengths and weaknesses. Some people really like doing characters more than spaceships. Again, kind of weirdly by luck, being in an office where a senior person was. So when the people from Paramount would come in, they would go into that office, talk to that senior person. I'm sitting right there doing my stuff. And of course, they just turn around to me and they go, "Well, this guy's right here, right?" So they'd be like, "Well, do you think you could do that?" So as soon as I said, well, no matter what, even if I didn't think I could at all, which is probably what I thought, I said yes anyway, and then figure it out later, right? We don't tell the client, "No, I can't do that. It's not a smart idea," And then I did one, and it turned out well, and then that was it. Rob was Anomaly guy. Oh, Rob's Anomaly guy. He does all the, it's just like once they see you do something well, you become that guy.
Just saying, you've invented so many amazing of those anomalies in Trek, like that they're the Rob Nebula, the Robus Disturbance, the Rob Wormhole, yeah.
No. Especially because I had a physics degree and all that, and I think one of the first anomalies was a pulsar, and I mean, in my head I knew, in terms of, I knew exactly what it should look like, and I knew exactly sort of what representationally you should get. It wasn't necessarily a stupid move to say, give it to the guy who knows the physics, it's like who's actually studied this in school. So
we also know you built a few CG models on your time in Star Trek. So which ones did you build, and did you approach them in a different, specific way, given you're already a Star Trek fan?
Yeah, I wanted to build, who knows when it was going to end. You never know how long that fun ride is going to be. So I'm like, well, I would like to have built something, like a spaceship that is somewhat of a hero, something that's going to be used more than ship of the week, throwaway. And the first thing I did was I got to do was the Nebula class starship. I asked if I could do like another, like a ship, but this time a ship from scratch. Like no, like the Nebula, I was still using I was still kit bashing CG pieces. I was using actually the ILM pieces that we had of the Galaxy class to build my Nebula class. But for the Delta Flyer, it was a brand new ship. So Rick Sternbach drew up these fabulous drawings, and he draws like he's very good at drawing blueprints.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is very hyper accurate. And I know for a lot of the artists sometimes because of time constraints and things like that, the effects houses don't always build the ships exactly the way the artist drew them or they were set up. But I stayed late and put extra effort in this one because I wanted one of those artists, at this point it was Rick Sternbach. I wanted him to go, oh my God, I'm actually getting the ship that I delivered. I'm getting everything that I asked for,
Yeah.
Like the way he drew the RCS thrusters, the
Mm-hmm.
way they were designed. I mean, if you go right into them, they're exactly like off his drawing. I mean, there's very few.
I knew there's a reason I always like the Delta Flyer, because the extra bit of effort made a difference. Because it's a beautiful CG model. I'm glad they used it a hell of a lot.
And lastly, you are now working on Eaglemoss to do many of their new CG shots for the magazines. Can you just give us a quick short list of some of the magazines you're responsible for?
And I've got all of them, so I'm sure I've got them all in my nice big pile here.
The ones off the top of my head that I can think of right away is the Enterprise B is one of them. The Delta Flyer, virtually all the Vulcan ships, all the issues with the Vulcan ship are my images. The Romulan Bird of Prey, and especially the fact that I put the Bird of Prey, I took my own initiative, not the old Bird of Prey, sorry, the Enterprise era, NX-01 era Bird of Prey. John Eves, if you look in that magazine, John Eves had put where you're showing me there the bottom of the ship. There's supposed to be a bird of prey there, right? As per the language in the original series, it was said outright on screen. It's not like it was like canon, but through a book. It was said on screen, and so I said one day I'm gonna do it for John. It took a lot of years because and we were kept so busy on that show. I mean, 10 hours a day was a minimum there, and once I became supervisor, I'm there on the weekends. I'm finishing people's shots. I mean, some people don't know.
But you have so much experience in just the Trek magic that we got to see, which makes this a very cool announcement, because as a 3D animator, I always love the chance to talk to professionals like yourself, and I'm personally looking forward to learning a lot more from you. And we talk about some of these amazing moments, and I already can tell you some fun stories and some amazing behind-the-scenes knowledge of working on Trek for like I said 12 years, and even Eaglemoss after the fact. So I'm looking forward to having some more discussions.
Yeah, and it's another top-notch Trek professional to add to our roster. So we hope you guys really appreciate all the hard work we put into these shows for you. I, too, am looking forward to many more episodes with you, Rob. So thanks for taking the time for Trek Yards today.
Of course, thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
That's it for today, guys. We will see you all next time. Bye.